But also, it came up in his mind that she is his intended one. Since he found it was simply not within his power to pull himself away from this deed. It's simply not within his power. So that makes it sound to me like it is basically like an oinus, except for a tzaddik he could say that an oinus is not just something, but in an oinus there is a great secret and it must be the divine will.
The language of it says the kocho, that he found it impossible, means that not by the nature of the universe was it impossible. If he would have, as it were, appealed to a power higher than his own, then maybe he could have, because it doesn't say that it was impossible.
To me, it sounds like he's pretty much saying that it's impossible. At least I wonder about that. But I think your point. I think your point is good, and I want to kind of go that way and make it a little more complicated. But meanwhile, I just want to make this point that I find it plausible that what the Meshiloich is saying here, it's not necessarily. I mean, it's radical in any case, but it's not necessarily as radical as I was saying it all the time. Because the question is whether he's really saying that there is a point where the tzaddik still has a modicum of free will and freely decides to do this deed because he knows that God wants him to do it, even though officially it's an avera, or whether he's just saying that when you come to the point where you just can't help yourself, if you're a tzaddik, then you're entitled to say that there's some great divine secret in it. You're just going to do it anyway because you can't help yourself. You've gone beyond the point where you can help yourself. The desire is just too strong. So I'm really not sure. You understand? I'm trying to.
This is more mild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and I'm trying to be careful about the language. I'm trying to be just a second. I'm trying to be careful about the language. I missed it. I missed a very important line here. Please forgive me. I want to point out he puts forth his idea of what the essential dispute was in the understanding of the thing between Zimri and Pinchas. And he says, Zimri was a tzaddik, so he could think of this way, and he really was very guarded himself closely all the time not to fall into any evil desires. Therefore, he was entitled to think in this way. But also, now it came up in his mind that she is his intended one. Since he found it not within his power to take himself away from this act. And Pinchas said the opposite. That he's still able to stop himself. That's how he says. Pinchas said, no, you just don't get it to yourself. It's not true that you can't help yourself. You really could help yourself. So that's interesting to me, the way you could have made the dispute something different, right? You could have made the dispute something different. That's the way he makes the dispute. He puts down the dispute, he defines the dispute between them in those terms. That Zimri held that he just couldn't help himself. But he said, no, you could have helped yourself. You're just making excuses. So that's interesting. So it sounds like Zimri's side of the thing, which he regards as the true side, is that he just couldn't help himself. At least it seems to point to that. I'm wondering about that. Yes,
I just want to point out what he said in the first lecture still holds up very strong. That if there is no choice, then there is no schmooze. I mean, you don't need Ishbitzer. If there's no choice, I mean...
So this is what I think.
So I just want to point out that the Ishbitzer over here is not establishing the rule of thumb for everybody. Faket, it's within his interest over here to present Zimri as the biggest tzaddik in the world as much as possible. So he boils it down to a certain thing where Pinchas held like, listen, it happens, but you've got to go down fighting. Versus Zimri who said, listen, I'm not going to get away with it.
Yeah, but let's go one step at a time. I remember that I made that point, and I like that point, essentially, that if it's an oinus and you can't help yourself, then there's no schmooze out. Okay, I accept what you're saying, but I think it might be necessary to draw out the discussion a little further. And it might be the case that all that's being said here so far is that in the case of the tzaddik, it's possible for any human being to come to a point where he has so much taiva that he can't help himself anymore. I mean, there's such a thing as nishtarish b'chet, right? It happens to all kinds of people. Beyond a certain point, you can't help yourself anymore. So, but the point is, when it happens to an ordinary person, we aren't entitled to say that there's some great divine mystery in it. It just happens. It's for whatever reason. It's sometimes on the contrary. You know that it says in the Svarim, Reb Tzaddik speaks about it many times, that sometimes a person is choyte ba'oinis, that it's brought like the Chavis Yor, the famous tshuva, that a person is mechuyev to do tshuva even on a various ba'oinis. So Reb Tzaddik says that the Indian is because if someone doesn't have a ba'oinis, it's because they're reminding him from heaven that he is flawed in this matter. Concerning this matter, he is flawed. That's why from heaven whatever, they caused him to do this affair b'oinus to remind him, to let him know that he is flawed concerning this matter. But by a tzaddik, it's not like that. By a tzaddik, he's not supposed to do tshuva on it. He's not supposed to consider it an avera. On the contrary, he's supposed to consider it that a great tikkun comes out of it. It is possible so far, from what I see in the Ishbitzer, so far. You understand? Okay.
That's tired. That's for everybody.
But that's a mitzvah in the Torah. That's different Torah connected Yitzhak. But that's a mitzvah in the Torah. That's different. That's a mitzvah in the Torah. I know it's different Torah connected Yitzhak, but it's a mitzvah in the Torah. Listen, there are many shtiklach in the Ishbitzer, and we need to work through a lot of shtiklach, and I can't make a big yisoid so far. I want to just open up a discussion here, but I just wanted to make the point that it could be that my esteemed colleague here is right. And so far in this shtikel, it's quite striking to me the way he defines the dispute between Pinchos and Zimri. And it could be that it doesn't say here yet that one can just get up and do that great antinomian thing, that even if one still has the ability to control oneself, one could say there's a certain point where the taiva, where the desire is so strong that that means that it's the will of God and I can just go freely and do it, even though I still have a choice. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the way he sets it up, the way he describes it over.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, that the question is that Pinchas felt, that Zimri felt he couldn't control himself.
Yes.
Pinchas felt, it sounds retired. It sounds like childish. That no, you still can. It's a question in realities. Could he? Couldn't he? I mean, it doesn't have any depth to the argument. And he says, I couldn't have held myself back, and he says, I think you could have held. How does he know? How does he know what Zimri could do? How does Pinchas know what's going on in Zimri's mind? That's all it is.
I don't know. Well, I don't have.
No, because I think it's more fundamental than just how far. It's a question of, yes, he could have held himself back. He could have jumped in the lake. He could have told people, tie me down,
like Ludabei Amro. Yeah, but what do you mean? But it's not true. But no. Wait a second.
Thing is doing an avera b'oinus when it's just out of taiva.
Weinfeld, my friend here, also made that point last time, that maybe in halacha there's no such thing as calling it an oinus when it's just out of taiva.
Yeah.
But
this case.
Okay, Rabbi Sai, Groise Lomdim. There's a Toisus in Shas that says that if a man is mispatted to a woman, it's an oinus, right? Where's that Toisus? That's called an oinus. Where's the Toisus? So there is a shmuz like that in halacha, that there is such a thing, that if a man gets to a situation where he just gets seduced beyond a certain point, it's an oinus. It's not the only place. It's complicated. Also, I want to point out. The Gemara
uses that.
What?
The tzaddik uses that in Tzidkas Tzaddik.
Yeah. It's a toisus. That and also the Gemara says l'moli nagdu l'chanani mishol v'zay v'polkul tzalma. That even though it's a Vaydazor, which is the Horak Valyava, but it says that if Chanani Mishol Vazai, if the king, instead of sending them down to Kivshana Eish to be killed, he would have had them beaten, tortured, subjected to severe pain, there would come a point where they just couldn't help themselves. Now, so it's masper from the Gemara that there is such a thing, there is such a musik, even if you're still alive and you're still in possession of your faculties, but there's a point of pain, different things can happen to a person's psyche that can cause him just not to be able to help himself. Fear point I want to make, Toisus messes up that Gemara, and Toisus says right away off an art that how could it be you have a Polchel Tzalma, it's a Vayzer, it's Yarik Valyavar, and Toisus says a different shot of the Gemara, that Toisus messes up the whole shmuz. Toisus says that the image wasn't really an image of a Vayzer, it was just an image of a king, and they were only Machma and things like that, but probably other Rishayim learned about Parshas in the Gemara. So I'm just making the point, where's the Gemara? Alright. I don't know where to see. Yeah.
No, I just want to mention, you don't have to go really far,